welcome to, I have no formal title for this episode. I think what we'll just informally title this, Radulich In Broadcasting Network, look back.
I was gonna call it the Radulich In Broadcasting Network be fucking.
You got to put the year in there at least. In 2018. There you go. Yeah, well, I think what we'll do, it's going to be a look back. Just a real quick, I don't think we're going to take more than half an hour here unless we really get into something deep. But, we bring to our listeners, the few that are out there.
You didn't do introductions.
I didn't do introductions. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jesse Starcher. And on the other side of this microphone is Mark Radulich. Mark Radulich, are you ready to take a look back at 2018?
Sure am.
All right.
What a year it's been. I didn't get cancer this year.
That's right, man. Let's go ahead and start with that because you just got back. Was it yesterday? From the doctor's office. I know you had a podcast yesterday you recorded, but why don't you go ahead and just...
Let me go back to August 2017. So I finished my last chemotherapy. I was getting rice, which meant 3 days in a row of chemotherapy. And then I had to wear this machine that would kind of like clean my body out from the radiation and the gamma rays and the Hulkness and whatever was happening
Crazy.
to me. But rice is like heavy duty chemotherapy because they felt that the CHOP, which I was getting, wasn't doing the job. And they felt like I had this really, really aggressive lymphoma. My suspicion was that I wasn't aggressive lymphoma. I just waited forever to get anything done about it. But I'm not a doctor. All the doctors there, it ranged from you have this really aggressive lymphoma and we have to treat it, like you're going to die tomorrow to you'll probably get it in 3 months and die. Some of the doctors there were a bit grim. It literally started with, it's just a little lymphoma. It's fine. It's like getting a hangnail. We can cure that up real quick too. If you don't get these drastic treatments and this bone marrow transfer and all this other stuff, you're gonna get cancer and die again in 3 months.
Jeez.
That was my life in 2017. I opted to not get the bone marrow transplant despite getting the clean bill of health in August. But every 3 months I would go back and they would do labs, and then every 6 months they were supposed to do a CAT scan to see if any new tumors had shown up. First couple went fine. All my labs were fine. Everything was fine. Nothing really to talk about. First CAT scan was fine. Second CAT scan I got, which was this past June, there were a couple of nodules in my lungs. And I was assured that it wasn't lung cancer. Here, I guess what I've learned about this is that nodules in your body are not an uncommon thing. Mm-hmm. They can be caused by infection. They can be caused by all kinds of things. They're not necessarily always tumors either. So what I found out is that the nodules I had in my lungs, most of them, when given time, resolved themselves, and new ones would pop up, but the old ones would go away. And so I never got a biopsy done because the ones that they were going to biopsy resolved themselves. So again, I've had a couple of CAT scans since then. I just had one on the 26th of December. And once again, old ones went away, new ones popped up. We're thinking it's just infections, and it's just, I also have GERD. Yeah. I'm 200 pounds overweight from where I should be at my height, 200, 250, somewhere in there. So I have all the problems that go with being a fat ass. And and I'm sure that doesn't help the situation. On top of which I have asthma, on top of which I've had at least one bout of pneumonia, one bout of serious pneumonia, at the time I had cancer. And then I recently had another bout of walking pneumonia, which I didn't even realize I had because it was, she insisted I had pneumonia. I'm like, this feels like a cold to me, but whatever. Mm-hmm. So basically both the doctor and I agree that I don't have cancer. I'm just, a 42, 43-year-old guy, who's fat and just has, some unfortunate lung issues that just kind of go along with, if everybody got a CAT scan every 3 months, you'd be surprised with what you'd find.
Yeah.
But most people go through life not getting CAT scans, so they don't know those things are there. The bottom line is I don't have cancer. I made it through all of 2018 as we close out the year with all good lab work and, nothing happening in my lungs that's alarming or foretelling of a possible return of lymphoma, large B-cell lymphoma.
Love hearing that, man, because I know last year was scary. That was scary. You know, when you told us what was going on, we were following your health. And I know we hadn't had a chance to get on here and update anything really in regards to your health for, since that long. So
let me say this. The worst part about this is hearing the doctors say that I'm probably going to have a reoccurrence of lymphoma because they think that this particular kind of lymphoma that I have, and they don't know for sure. And a lot of this is based on statistics. But there were a couple of doctors that were like, you're going to get this again. Like after I'd gotten a clean bill of health in 2017, they're like, you're going to get this again in 3 months.
Yeah.
And when 3 months went by and I didn't get it, I was relieved. But there's always that voice in the back of my head going, I'm going to get sick again. And that kind of sums up my 2018. You know, I come on here and I make a lot of jokes and I'm jovial and I try to be entertaining, but I go through most of my days, and this is something my wife and I just talked about over the holiday. You know, we're both partially in a very negative headspace because there's not a day that goes by that I don't think I'm going to get cancer again. Mm-hmm. And I have kids to take care of and a job to go to and and podcasts to do and a life to live. And I don't believe I don't believe that one should live their life in fear. So I gotta go about my life as normal, but there's always that voice in the back of my head every morning. You know, if I have too much of a cough or, if it's taking me too long to get over get over a cold or something, there's that voice in my head, you've got cancer.
Yeah.
I live like that every day. So
Jeez.
Now with this most recent one, I'm trying to change my thinking. This isn't healthy to go through life like this.
Yeah.
And so is my wife. We're both kind of working on separately and together how we're handling this mentally, because that's the worst part of it. So this year, my goal is to two things. One, don't worry about it unless there's a reason to. Two, work on losing this enormous amount of weight that I'm carrying around, because if it's not the cancer that's going to end up killing me, it's probably my weight. So I gotta do something about that. So I'm going to start hitting the DDP yoga this year before I go on air and talk to you.
Awesome. Let's talk about the network here, man. I think starting out, the biggest news item, really, in my opinion, for the Radulich In Broadcasting Network in 2018 was our move to Spreaker. We made a choice to change networks from Blog Talk to Spreaker. So what are your thoughts?
Well, let's talk about why that happened. So let's go to January 31st. We'd already done a month of podcasts. We did the 300 shows on the Metal Hammer of Doom, which is where the story starts, basically. We did Watain. We did Corrosion of Conformity. Both of those shows went pretty well. We did Avatar. That show, I remembered, that went pretty well. The Machine Head show sucked. And it's not because the album sucked. The Machine Head show sucked, because if I remember correctly, because we were having connectivity issues.
Oh, yeah.
I think what happened was the dashboard started going out, so we couldn't play the music anymore.
Oh, yes. Gosh, what a mess.
Yeah, it really was. It was horrible. And I think it was after that show that I started pulling my hair out, what's left of it. And and I said, I can't do this anymore. And that's when I decided we're moving to another platform. And ultimately, I would follow the good folks over at Wrestling to the Max, WTM, and we would move to Spreaker. We wouldn't officially move for another month or so. We still had a couple of shows in between, and I think some of them, were fine. Some of them we would continue to have connectivity issues. We'd have dashboard issues, but ultimately, starting with Phil Ansamo and the what do we call them?
The appliances.
Phil Ansamo and the appliances. That was the first show where we transitioned.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were pretty pleased. I mean, I haven't had any problems. You know how I do things, though. I pre-record, and my biggest concern was, well, are we going to have to worry about live shows? Well, we don't. Do we even have any live shows? Does Winfrey do 411 as live anymore?
I basically asked him to stop, and he did.
Oh, okay.
And I asked him to stop because I think as a live show, it wasn't available to be uploaded to YouTube. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was my understanding. At least he tried, and it didn't work. I told him I wanted his shows to upload to my YouTube page, and he said, okay, and that was the end of the live shows.
Okay. All right. Now, I don't know if he got a lot of phone calls in on that show or not, but everything else we just record, and then I do editing on my shows on source material, but rest of it is usually up within minutes after we're done. But everything's worked out pretty smooth. I mean, knock on wood, we haven't had any trouble, have we?
No, but let's talk a little bit about how we finally got that show put together. A little known fact about Spreaker: if you upload music to the Spreaker app, nobody else on the podcast can hear it. So essentially, the way that we record through Spreaker is we fire up Skype. Everyone dials into Skype. We filter Skype through Spreaker, and it records all of us talking. It records the phone call.
Yep.
Separately from that is the Spreaker dashboard, where I can hear the music and I can hear the horse and all that stuff that we play, but nobody else can.
No.
And that almost put an end to the Metal Hammer of Doom this year.
That's right. Yeah, man. You and Coop on that first. I don't know if we were doing the illegals. I think we were. We were doing Philip H. Anselmo, and we were trying to hash out, okay, how can we possibly get it to where we can hear the music along with the audience that's listening? And that took some work, didn't it?
Yeah, I had to do a lot of research. I ended up downloading a program called Audio Hijack, and then me and you just futzed with it for like an hour before we finally figured out. Yeah, we basically just tested it out, and in order for we kept basically playing tracks off of Spreaker and doing different things with Audio Hijack, and finally we figured out what the right combination between Audio Hijack and Spreaker and Skype was, so that it takes a bit of toggling on my part, which is why there's always a delay before I start a track, if you'll notice. But we're talking about like maybe a 1 or 2 second delay. I've gotten used to it now to where it's it's not too bad, but I have to change one of the settings in Skype so that the microphone is my computer and not me, basically.
Yeah.
And that's how they're able to hear the music. And how's that been for you all year?
It isn't bad. I mean, I can hear the music just fine. The only thing is that it takes me by surprise when, usually I know your cues now. I've done podcasts enough with you to understand, okay, he's getting ready to do this or he's getting ready to do that. But for like someone like Ronnie was on our last Metal Hammer of Doom, wasn't he? Or was it the one before, where you are getting ready to intro the track? Well, you got to flip it over. So everybody can hear you on the audience side of things, but all of a sudden on our end, it's dead quiet. And of course, I know at that time you're getting ready to cue up the song. Ronnie, I'm worried, is about ready to jump in and go, Mark, are you there?
Right.
But for me, after doing so many shows with you, it's fine with me. And then I can hear the music, which is great. I was completely ready to do the show without having to worry about listening to the music. Just let you play whatever and then comment on it. But I do love hearing the music.
Let me ask you a question. If I had decided that it's too difficult and I don't want to do this anymore, let's do something else, how would you have felt about the Metal Hammer of Doom ending? Well, it would have ended with Orphanland, by the way. It would have ended February 14th, Valentine's Day. But I mean, if the run of Metal Hammer of Dooms had ended with that, how would you have felt?
I like doing the Metal Hammer of Doom. I really do. Some of the most fun that we have on episodes when it comes to, or on shows, is the Metal Hammer of Doom. We have a lot of fun on source material, but being able to talk about music it's a lot of fun for me. It also gives me the reason. I've thought about this a lot because it gives me a reason to go and listen to music. As you'll hear on those episodes, here comes another band that Jesse has no idea where they even existed. And so I get the chance to go out there and listen to something new. See, I would have broke my heart not being able to do those, not being able to continue. A Clutch album would have dropped, and you know what I would have said? Oh, shit. That dropped in what, September? We don't have the Metal Hammer of Doom to talk about this album. For me, one of my favorite things to do is to come on every Wednesday and talk about my experience with either a band that I've never heard of and what they sound like, or being able to talk about some of my favorite bands that I get to listen to their newest album. And I like being able to tell people, hey, yeah, I reviewed that album. I actually listened to that album and I talked about it. So I'm glad it's still around. I don't know. I'm glad it's not a pain in the ass because, man, it was close. It was really close. If we wouldn't have got that figured out, there wouldn't really have been.
I was done. I was ready to cash in and do something else.
Yeah.
I know I'm the hardest working man in podcasts, but it takes a lot for me to do this 3, sometimes 4 days in a row. And, I get tired, as you know. I get tired. It's not a problem relationship-wise, but though my wife has said she would never ask me to stop doing it. And 9 out of 10 times, her thing is, oh, good, I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
But there are those occasions where she would have preferred that if I had gone to bed with her. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't bring it up because she doesn't want to be a pain in the ass. She doesn't want to be an Adrian Balboa. But
you'll never succeed at podcasting, Mark.
You'll never win, Rock. You're gonna die. It's just doing a podcast. It's not that serious. But no, there are times where she's like, like, as you described it with your own wife, like you get the side eye, like, but I get told these things after the fact, like I don't know what if she had said like, hey, I don't want to telegraph it too much, but if you don't do a podcast tonight and you come to bed now, you might get more than me snoring, if I might do things differently. But she's, she knows how much I enjoy this, and she has heard me laughing during the, like, she has often said, she's like, of all the guys you do podcasts with, I really like the fact that you do podcasts with, with Jesse and Robert Cooper when he was doing these more consistently, because those were the shows where she could hear me laughing the most. I mean, source material comes in a tight second. I would have been sad if we had said the Mental Hammer of Doom. I mean, I think I had in my head that maybe it was time, but we saved it, and I'm glad we saved it. We've had a run of really good shows. Most of the shows we've done, I think, this year, whether or not the album was any good is a whole other story. But I think most of the shows we did have provided me with the most fond memories and the most laughter. If nobody else is entertained by the shit we do, God knows I am. Like, I'll still laugh even when I play it back. Like, I'll be listening to it in the car and I'll still be laughing at some stuff we did.
Oh my gosh, dude! I just saw the numbers for our Tarza episode, and I was gobsmacked at the fact that 30 some people listen to that, and I'm like, how do these people not like grab their pitchforks and head over to America trying to find Mark Radulich's home and Jesse Starcher's home? And it's just like,
Tarja Bomb.
Oh yes, Tarja Bomb.
Yes, think if we didn't do the Metal Hammer of Doom, we never would have talked about Rum Ahoy.
Absolutely. Not only that, but that led into the Metal Hammer of Doom Extra. We got the commentary bug where we decided, okay, well, since we got this Watch Together app, we can start doing like commentaries. And I had started learning how to do something that got into me about doing React videos. And I was like, man, this has got to be a lot simpler than what I think it is. And it turns out it isn't as bad. So, that generated the seed for doing some of the React videos and commentaries that we did. I should say, the video commentaries. So the Metal Hammer of Doom Extra started with, I think it started with Ministry. No, I'm sorry. We put out a extra special Planet Caravan by Pantera because that was
brought to you by MS Paint.
Yep, and that was back in March, right at the beginning of March. So we were like, okay, well, maybe this has some legs, so we'll give it a shot. And we did Ministry. We got 3 episodes. 3 Metal Hammer of Doom extras dedicated to Ministry and America Can't.
Boy, did we get ourselves in trouble with that one.
Yeah, buddy. So I'm looking. Here's what I thought I'd do. We would just kind of look at maybe some of the top episodes by quarter. In quarter 1, we're looking at obviously January to the end of March 2018. Now, I know I sent you the top 5 of the year already. And of course, as we go through the year, there's not going to be as many listens because they're more recent shows. But regardless, January through March, I'm going to just give you the top 5 rundown for those shows. All right. So, yeah, boy, did we get in some hot water. Metal Hammer of Doom Ministry America Can't tops out at our most listened to episode. We have Metal Hammer of Doom Extra, Rob Halford and Baby Metal, which I pulled from my YouTube page. Halford.
Can we talk about this? What exactly was the comment that made you be like, nope, I can't do this anymore?
Dude, okay. All right. Now,
was it faggot delete your channel?
No. It was the amount of negativity that we got just because you started making fun of the Asian ladies, the Asian children who could not pronounce their R's. And then I was like, oh, boy, I don't, at first, just like any other podcast, any other episode, I'm laughing along with you. And we have a good time watching the video. And then, man, we had how many listens? Like 500 views of that YouTube video.
Yep.
And it was the most viewed YouTube video I ever had on my channel. But I don't know at what point I was just like, there were so many comments where they were just like really, really upset at what we had said. And I was like, this is not how I want to go down. My legacy has not been written yet. I don't want to go down in flames. But the thing is that this has been 9 months since this occurred. And what is Eric Bischoff's saying it's
Controversy creates cash.
Fucking A right. Because it was the most viewed video on my YouTube. I pulled it. I said, I can't do this. No.
You didn't just disable comments. You actually got rid of the video.
No, well, I think the video is still there. I blocked it, so it's not like you can find it anymore. You can't go and search for it. It's not on my channel. It's private, I think, is what I made it. So it's still there.
I know we got called juvenile a bunch of times. We got called juvenile because of this. We got called juvenile because of the Amorphous show, which I was not into at all. And that was the one where like I farted really loud and I just started to do a riff on that. Like, it's not really my kind of humor, but like that particular night, I'm just like, no one gives a shit about Amorphous or about this show, so I'll just riff on the fact that I pass gas really loudly. And boy, did I fucking miscalculate that one.
Oh boy.
Sometimes I don't know my own audience.
Amorphous was a good show too. I mean, or a good album.
Yeah, it was. It was probably one of the better albums of the year. I just there were times I was not into it that night. I was like, I probably just should have outright fucking canceled that show. But like, you never know. Here, that's the thing is you don't know. Like I pick these bands and I pick these albums and I never know which is going to catch hot fire. You know, like I assume like I'm not picking obscure shit for the most part. I'm picking things that I think people are going to be into, and like I'll pick a band that I think is going to be people are going to be super into it. It's a very popular band. You know, like I pick like a Judas Priest or Metallica, and those don't always get high numbers. And then I pick, you know, She Fucks Seashells by the Seashore, and it's like, wow, that's got 1 million fucking views. All all of a sudden, like where did that? No one knows who these people are. So around this time that we had this, I just want to talk about this one real quick. You know, I was still getting used to the whole Spreaker setup. We'd done a bunch of shows, and for the most part, they had gone well. But I was still, you know, March, I was still kind of getting used to the software. The week that we were supposed to review Tomb Raider, Robert Winfrey did not participate in that one, and I had my settings crossed. So you got you got me, and then long periods of silence because you weren't getting Ronnie and Jesse, who were nice enough to come on Damn You Hollywood and do the show with me for Tomb Raider, and then they couldn't be heard. So Jesse, in his infinite wisdom, decided to take that very same show and just cut the silence out. So essentially, it's 45 minutes of me talking to myself.
It was great. Perfect stuff. I can't get to these comments because I made it private, but I can tell you, here it is. Here's the stats. 571 views, 6 likes, 12 dislikes. So we doubled the dislikes. Now on your channel though, let me go over to Mark PC Live. We left the audio on your channel.
Oh, so, I know I got fucking railed for that. I got called racist, which not racist. Sorry.
Yes, here we go. You had 161 views. Ronnie got in on the action here.
Yeah, Ronnie jumped up to defend me and then fucking gave up.
So Metal Incarnate says, you mock them, but as another Rob Zombie once said regarding Baby Metal towards haters, they roll harder than you. Oh, yes. We roll hard here on the Metal Hammer of Doom on the Radulich In Broadcasting.
I believe at the time I said, yeah, they're a rock band. I'm a looking shitty podcaster. I hope they rock harder than I do.
Seriously, you're making fun of a 16-year-old kid for having an accent in a second language. Really? For your next upload, how about you clowns read this in your perfect pronunciation? Motherfucker, I can't even. Every night, I screw up words. Every fucking night.
Jesse is Maroney from Johnny Dangerously. He murders the English language and anyone that gets in his way.
The truth. Considering you obviously think it's easy and natural, then proceed to write everything in Chinese or Japanese or whatever the hell this is. And this is looking forward to hearing it from these brave guys ridiculing a teenage girl. Yeah.
I fucking tried once. I think with one of the older Baby Metal shows, I actually tried to read stuff in Japanese. I fucked it up sideways.
Dude, there's no way. Wow, you guys racist much. They may not speak good English, but they're going on a world tour, and you have this sucky podcast with 31 subs.
Goddamn right.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Well, okay. Backing up off. So, anyway, Rob Halford and Baby Metal, our commentary on that video caught fire. Second most listened to for that quarter. And then there's the TV party tonight with Aquaman.
Yeah, I don't know why anyone tuned into that. That was Ronnie and I had a fine conversation. I haven't the faintest clue what the big attraction of this was.
You know, the only thing I could think of is like people thought that there was actually going to be an Aquaman show, and we're like, oh yeah, we got to listen. But yeah, it did pretty decent. Then we have the Damn You Hollywood Pacific Rim Uprising, which I still haven't watched that movie. I don't. That came out in March. It looks like about the end of March. And I don't think I've listened to the podcast, so I don't know. Did anything special happen on that?
No. Again, okay. No clue why that got popular. But I'll tell you, that same week we did the Rise and Fall of Toys R Us, which is probably one of my favorite shows we did this year.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. And number 5 for quarter 1 from January to March, #Baby Metal, the rebroadcast. Because of our commentary on Rob Halford Baby Metal, we decided to throw out our discussion on the first Baby Metal album, right? That you guys covered?
It was with myself, Jason Teasley, and my wife, which Jason Teasley likes to bring that up as like, oh, you know, I'm the reason why you have such great numbers. I'm like, nope, pretty sure it was just Baby Metal.
It is. It clearly is. America Can't.
That's the one where my wife got ridiculed, by the way. My wife got ridiculed for her pronunciation of Japanese words.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Jeez.
And she was trying in earnest. She actually lived in Japan for a while.
I was going to say, yeah, I remember that show. I remember her talking about living there and trying to translate, because she came back on for the sequel, whatever the second album was called, which was, I can't even fucking remember. But I know I was part of that, and she tried to translate some stuff for us. But whatever, people. So America Can't. We had actually roped a guy into listening to the podcast. Do you remember that? He commented on he commented on something. I can't remember what he commented on. It was probably the Metal Hammer of Doom Extra. And we were like, yeah, hey man, we're reviewing the
Oh
album.
My God, yeah. We got yelled at because I didn't like it enough. Is what happened.
Well, we shat all over the Antifa. I remember the Antifa references.
Oh, someone got on my case because they didn't understand how, Be My ASCAP works. And I can't play the entire song. And he was like, how could you cut the song off? And I'm like, because I'm trying not to get sued.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember that. And then Ronnie was on there. Our good liberal friend Ronnie Adams was discussing ministry with us. So yeah, I remember that episode. Having a lot of fun.
God,
Oh gosh. Okay, quarter 2. We're looking at bottom to top.
Take 2.
Top 5. Top 5. Okay. Metal Hammer of Doom Godsmack, When Legends Rise. All right.
Yeah, I can see that.
Tied with Lordy's Sexorcism. And then we have Mark Radulich Farts on Air, Amorphous Queen of Time.
Yep.
Then we have Damn You Hollywood, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and then Metal Hammer of Doom's Dimmu Borgir, Aeonian. So again, Metal Hammer of Doom doing rather well there in that quarter. I know we're going to be doing the Metal Hammer of Doom retro or 2018 look back here next week or whenever.
Yeah, but we're not going to be so concerned with stats.
No, we're not. So there's your top 5 for the second quarter. The one that sticks out the most to me, honestly, I was really excited for Lordy's Sexorcism. I thought, boy, we're going to have a good album on our hands. I loved my introduction to him last time. And yeah, it was a return back to Lordy, but I wasn't grabbed as much as I was with Theaterror. I like discussing it, but I remember mostly being let down. I'm very surprised Dimmu Borgir, but then again, we can never fucking predict who these Finlands and all these the Finnish are going to grab. They're actually going to gravitate toward. Jurassic World. Go ahead.
I was just saying, have you seen our stats for for geolocation where we get our fans from? We're apparently pretty, relatively speaking, and I'm not trying to make it sound like we're bigger than we really are. We are an infinitesimally small podcast.
Like, we only have 32 subs. I mean, come on.
but a good portion of our listeners come from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Like we and I would imagine that a lot of that's driven by the fact that we do a lot of non-American bands.
Yeah. In the second quarter, so I'll run down. I'll tell you one of my favorite episodes in the second quarter. I know precisely had to have happened around May. Let me look here.
Hey, while you're doing this, let me ask you a question. So this is now the second year that I've been a pretty big part of Source Material. What's your feelings on them? How do you think the show has changed for better or for worse since I've basically been driving the content?
I like having a schedule. Okay, I like being able to say, put something out, because you schedule things out. We joke about it, but it's true. I mean, you schedule things out as far as you can based on content that's going to be upcoming, close to up to a year afterwards. Me personally, I wouldn't be doing that. Thing is that I enjoy being able to look at a schedule and say, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing. The other thing that I like is the fact that we have 3 people on a podcast that I'm getting used to. I'm able to, with you and Ronnie and me, seems like the trio, because we've done so many podcasts together. There's a lot of humor there between all 3 of us. I mean, the whole purpose of the gag reel is to capture those moments that we have cutting up on that podcast. I think you can tell when, like this, we just did Bumblebee. Well, there was some funny, but Ronnie Adams, that third person element in there, it tends to drive and makes the podcast a lot more humorous, in my opinion. It makes it funnier. So you being involved, I mean, I just want to talk comics with somebody. If you weren't there, I'd be going and grabbing somebody else from a different podcast or from a different, somebody else that reads comics, probably from a coal mine in West Virginia, and saying, come up here and do a podcast with me. I know you want to read comics, but it's tough to have that. I like the funny in our podcast. I like that.
I've been worried about that. I'll be honest with you, because I know I've been doing podcasts since 2006, and I started with a very serious political podcast. Trying to take a medium way approach to political commentary, and that lasted all of 5 minutes before my friend John got involved, and it became nothing but jokes. We had a dedication. We had a section dedicated to chicken news.
There you go, buddy. That's the way to go.
To this day, I still remember the biggest laugh out loud moment I had doing that podcast, which was PC Live. Was I had done a book review on the effects of fake sugar, like NutraSweet and Sweet and Low and all that, and how it gives you cancer. And then there had been a chicken news segment about these eggs that could cure cancer. And my friend called into the show and said, "I have a question about this. What if you bake a cake with the cancer-causing sugar and the cancer-curing eggs? Does that cancel? Do they cancel each other out?" And when he dropped the line, "What if you bake a cake?" I couldn't stop laughing. I almost fell out of my chair. So my worry has been, because I listened to some of your older shows, which they're not bad. They're a little dry. They're what they are. They're book clubs. You're talking. You're reviewing comic books, and they're not, like I said, they're not bad. They're just, I do feel like I brought humor, but I feel like I feel like sometimes I sacrifice a really good in-depth conversation because I'm a clown. And if there's an opportunity to make a joke and crack somebody up, I'm going to go for it, as opposed to maybe staying, and as opposed to not being blue, as opposed to staying above board and keeping it dry, basically. So I've always been a little worried that I kind of took the show away from you and turned it into something it was never meant to be. So I'm kind of happy to hear that you appreciate the fact that I'm a fucking asshole. And but I will say this, I've gone back and listened to all those shows, and while the first thing I do was always listen to the gag reel, and then I go back.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we have bad conversations. I think the content really drives the conversation. Some of the sillier shows are because there just isn't that much to talk about.
I'll give you one episode that would never have happened if you would not have been on there, all right? And that would have been August, let me make sure here, August 28th, source material 184, bonus content, shark prostitute. I mean, all that is a big fucking gag reel that I put out there. How did shark prostitute happen? I just remember we're in the middle.
I was Googling it at one point, and I started sending out pictures.
Ronnie, I remember Ronnie getting the picture and his reaction, and oh my gosh. Okay, so anyway, yeah, I'm glad you're a part of it. I mean, I wouldn't have the schedule, I wouldn't have the humor, so I have a lot of fun doing that show. I like bringing on the extra guests, and those guys, they come in like we're going to be doing Teen Titans. You know, we got Chris Armstrong. He's pretty straight-laced guy. I mean, you know, he doesn't know us well enough to get our humor, but he certainly isn't hanging up on us at the fifth, you know, screwing joke, which is fine. And then we got Al Sedano. This will be our second podcast with him here, and I've listened to him for at least a few months, and I'm always like, man, I wanted to try and get him on the show. And when he approached coming onto the show, I was like, oh, this is going to be exciting because, dude, if you listen to anything that he does, he is very in depth. You know, when he talks a book, he then has a whole friends and enemies section where he's like, okay, these are friends from or friends that we've talked about and these characters in the past. What are they doing at this exact year, at this exact date? I'm like, fuck, man, that is some in-depth shit. But I'm taking him and putting him in our environment, which is the one thing that I love about our podcast together is it's laid back. I don't want people coming in. I know I've got a structure and I've got this, that, and the other I want to try and do, but I don't want people to feel like they're constrained by all these facts and everything that has to come about it. I want them to feel like, okay, this is a book. We've read it. You know, here's what we liked. Here's what we disliked. And here's like 10 jokes on the side. Have fun. So, you know, yeah, by the way, probably my favorite episode out of second quarter 2018. What happened on my birthday, May 6th, 2018. Screaming Boy, and Screaming Boy only had 6-7 episodes this year, but that quarter, out of those 3 months, Screaming Boy episode 29. What happened, Movie Pass? Oh boy. We decided what happened. Movie Pass was happening just after the Infinity War release. Oh my gosh, man. I was so fired up on that episode.
Yeah, probably, you were. Like, I'd never really seen you pissed before. Like, I mean, like, we've talked about our kids or whatever, you know, how, like, sometimes they upset you, but I've never really seen you, like really angry. Like, you were ready to fucking kill somebody over at Movie Pass.
I was upset. I mean, it was just, it was ridiculous. So, yeah, I would probably say of all the ones that we've had the chance to talk about when it comes to Screaming Boy or some of those topics, especially in that period of time, I was really, really passionate there. So. But
I want to talk about one of the things that occurred because we had a lot more freedom was we started doing these extras. Pat and I would do a lot of like wrestling extras. Obviously you and I were doing the music extras. We did a couple, we did the occasional, because people had been asking for it. We did the occasional movie commentary, which we labeled as an extra. But one of the other things that occurred was we were able to do, and it's kind of sad to bring it up, but like Pat and I did some remembering shows. We did, remembering Bruno Sammartino during this time. A little bit after that, we would do Vader, So one of the things that moving to Spreaker this year did for us was it gave us a lot more latitude to do shows reacting to things that were happening in the world. So the Toys R Us thing was a part of that, because if we wouldn't have been able to do it, otherwise, the Bill Cosby thing, Movie Pass, the shows about Bruno and Vader, and then I'm just looking at what we did that in May. We have the last Unicorn commentary.
Unicorn!
Unicorn! So, that's been one of the positive changes since going to Spreaker. There weren't very many negatives, to be quite honest, but definitely one of the positives was it allowed for more creative freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you and Pat got together for quite a bit, some wrestling commentaries, and then you guys did just recently you did the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury commentary as well. Yep. Which it's fun to actually put that out there and just be like, okay, here's an episode. I had the chance to sit down with Justin Thomas. We did the commentary for Friday the 13th, part 1, which I'd never watched. I'd never seen. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down with Justin because we all know Justin Thomas. He's a big horror fan. And sat down and I watched all of that with him. And I can tell you that I've released two versions of that. One similar to the one where we cut out all the silence for you. Did the same thing there. I was just like, you know what? How about if people just listen to this and not watch the movie? Here's an edit for them. They can get through it in 40 minutes instead of sitting there listening to the whole 2 hour and long periods of silence. Long periods of silence. So. All right, fast forward to quarter 3, all right, July to the end of September. Just looking at that right now, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I sort correctly here. Top 5 shows. Mark Radulich counting them down. We actually have a 411 ground and pound that makes it here. So Orange is the New Black season 6 is number 5, most fifth listened to the most. Looks like that was back in August. Can I tell you that my wife devoured that show like right after you guys did this review? Not unfortunately based off your review or anything. She just apparently found it on Netflix.
So I'm looking at the July calendar, and one of the source material shows is called "Fuck Tom King." I remember that actually. I remember that. So we did a show. It was really short. We were like, okay, we don't have enough material to really constitute one whole show. So what else are you guys reading? And I had said I had just read Batman number 50, which was The Wedding, and I came away from that issue wanting to strangle Tom King.
Yes.
And then that was also the one where I can't remember. I actually just brought this up about Spider-Man because we were talking about it during Into the Spider-Verse. But the writer who took over for Spider-Man that I thought was the worst thing ever, Ronnie and I almost got in like a fist fight over it.
There was previous, the guy's written stuff previously that was really good. And we were, pretty excited about him taking over. It wasn't, if I remember correctly, you weren't too impressed.
No, right? I said, no, I like the idea of Spider-Man having been an evolved adult, and having new problems. I loved during Secret Wars the Renew Your Vows for that reason. He was a parent and dealing with all of that. And then it felt like they stripped all the stuff. I would come to find out later, according to Pat, that basically all the stuff that Michael Bendis did to Spider-Man, they stripped it all away and they brought him back to his roots. And I didn't like it. I was just like, why? We've already seen this iteration of Spider-Man. We've seen this iteration of Spider-Man a zillion times.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we talked. Yeah, Orange is the New Black. Like I said, you and Sean Comer are the ones that usually tackle that, right?
Yep.
So you did season 6. Now, is that the final season? Have they canceled that?
One more season left.
Okay, all right. 411 Ground and Pound Radio Show UFC 227 review 227. Mark, you watch much UFC anymore?
I saw the Conor McGregor fight. That might have been what that was. Hang on, was it 227?
Yeah.
Nope. And I don't even know why this was a big deal. This was TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt. This was Demetrius Johnson versus Henry Cejudo, if I remember correctly, nobody thinks Henry Cejudo won that fight. Cub Swanson versus Renato Maiciano. Polyana Viana versus JJ Aldrich. Thiago Santos versus Kevin Holland. Gustafsson versus Vulcan Ming the Merciless. So yeah, I honestly haven't the faintest clue why this was a big deal. That's a Robert Winfrey question.
225. Look up UFC 225. Tell me what's there.
Whitaker versus Romero 2. I might have actually tried to watch this one.
Okay. Well, then how about what was the other one here they had? 220. Okay, 229. This ain't it either. That
might have been. Yep, that's Khabib versus McGregor. That one I actually watched. Watched when I went away with my wife to Jimmy Hart's bar and tiki deck, where the beer comes in cans and we got fresh beans and taters. You can watch the NFL Sunday Package. I watched that.
Why don't we just play the ad right now?
I bought that through Amazon Prime and watched it on my phone in a hot tub. It's the greatest night of my life.
Very nice.
Me and my wife in the hot tub watching MMA. I have lived. If I had died that night, I'd have died a happy man.
Well, I would say probably by the end of the year, UFC 229 is going to be the most listened to for one ground and pound. It's like one listen behind 225, but it also had 225 had a 4-month jump on the October show. So anyway, all right. So as we're going down quarter 3 here, source material number 186 makes the top 5, and that is from September of 2018. Exit stage left, even the Snagglepuss Chronicles. Yeah. Now this was controversial, if I remember correctly.
Put it on a T-shirt, Mindy.
That was a lot of fun. You told your dad about it. I told my mom about it. Ronnie Adams told everybody in his household. I know that for sure. Probably even got his dog to read it somehow. But that was a lot of fun. I remember sitting down and having a good discussion there about a Mark Russell, yet again, taking a cartoon property and spinning it on its ear. So, and the top 2 are Metal Hammer of Dooms. We have D. Snyder for the Love of Metal. And Therapy's Cleave actually beats out D. Snyder.
actually thought those were two good shows. I thought we were mostly on point with both of them. You know, I I feel like with the therapy one, I was pretty excited about that just based on having listened to them when I was a kid. I know the Metal Hammer of Doom extras, you know, was kind of like a teaching. Dude, the one we did for Diane, I remember we both were like, "What the fuck are we watching?"
Oh, that was my
fantastic. God. Yeah, I have to say, my favorite reaction of yours, though, I love the ones where you're just like, I don't know why you made me watch this. Where like, if you could have reached through the phone and punched me, you would have, was 9 Inch Nails Pinion. Yeah, yep. That's still one of my favorite reactions of yours.
Yep, and then fucking Burn the Priest. That one where the fucking doll.
Prominently.
What the fuck just happened?
That's good shit.
That is good stuff. Fast forward to near the end of the year. Now, again, we don't have a whole lot of listens to go by here between October to the end of December, but here we go. I'll round them up, going from 5 to 1. We have what looks to be 411 Ground and Pound UFC 230 review. So that's up there. Then we have a TV party extra. I mentioned this earlier. Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. You guys in your sports boxing fights. Metal Hammer of Doom, Metal Church, Damned If You Do. Oh, my goodness.
I don't understand why.
I do not either. I have no idea. Actually, I think if you do
dude.
if you do a search on most on demand, it's up there. It has 32 on demand plays, 58 total. But I was like, who's coming to listen to this? I think there's a way to look at the geolocation for that, and I was like, it's got to be all European. It's got to be all over there. But you know, of course, that was one of the ones that actually garnered a YouTube. I don't get too many YouTube comments, you know, especially when we're not.
I didn't know you got a comment on that.
Yeah, I did. I told you it was the one where the guy's like they're still, or they're back, or they're still around.
Oh, okay.
So he was, you know, but he saw it and was. I think if I remember correctly, I've got at least a few views on that. But anyway, Metal Church, Damned If You Do. And then we have the one we were just talking about, which is UFC 229 review. And then topping it all out for the holidays, Damn You Hollywood, The Grinch 2018.
Fuck me running. I don't know why. Like I get when like the Avengers does well, or Jurassic World, or Solo or something like that. The fucking Grinch, I don't understand it.
Damn You Hollywood. I mean, I think you guys tap into that. You're tapping into that happening right now vein. That's happening right now. People really want to find out what the review is. You guys got a good bit of followers that actually tune into that show when it's something that a lot of people are going to go watch.
Well, that's what I wanted to bring that up really quick. Robert Winfrey and I joke all the time. Like, you have people that you bring on the Source Trailer, like they've heard the show, and despite the content, they want to be on the show anyway.
Is Mark going to be on there? Yes. Okay, I'll think about
it. Has that actually happened?
No, nobody said that. Nobody listens to our fucking show. I mean, they're just like, oh, you have a show I want to be on. Okay, great.
But Robert Winfrey and I always, it's part of it's shtick, part of it I think is his own like depressed personality. But it's always like, people like David Wright, who is a friend who came to the show through Andrew Graham, who came to the show through Long Road to Ruin. I don't know how he came to Long Road to Ruin. I don't know if he knew Sean from something else or not, but Andrew Graham, friend of the show. I usually do stuff like The Crown with him. We've done some military stuff with him. He'll be on a few On Trials next year. But he's from Canada, and his friend is David Wright. And David Wright became a friend of the network and has been on a couple of Damn You Hollywoods and TV parties. I actually owe him a Lost in Space episode. But Lost in Space.
Oh, yeah, with that TV party?
Yeah. We'll probably get to it when the second series comes out. But second season. But anyway, people like David and Alexis Hana, who comes to us from, being a friend of Sean. What happened with her was Sean actually asked her to be on Long Road to Ruin when we did the Harry Potter series, because she's like a huge uber Harry Potter fan. Then I asked her to be on Source Material when we talked Mockingbird, and she keeps coming back. She's now asking to be on shows.
That's great.
And part of that is me being open to anyone wanting to be on. Like, I don't make it out of reach for people. Like, if you want to be on, if you want to talk and you're not a complete, I have two rules. If you want to come on, you have to talk.
Please.
And don't be an asshead. Don't be a fucking idiot. No one's been a fucking idiot, and the only person who never who is the reason why I have the rule about you have to talk is my friend Tom, who I had on years ago, and literally wrote me like nasty messages saying, like, you don't set him up that way. He's not an extemporaneous thinker. And I'm like, I don't know why you're on the show then. Boy, if you can't roll with the punches, I am the wrong podcast for you. The Radulich In Broadcasting Network panel family is growing. And it's growing because, for whatever the reasons are, people want to come on and talk about this stuff. Despite my humor, people, I guess, like me, and they like what we're doing here, and they like the shows, and they have an enthusiasm for talking about this stuff. I mean, I literally threw out there, hey, does anyone want to talk about Sabrina, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? And within seconds, I got a response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I'm not hurting for guests. And it's funny, like, even with Elseworlds, when we had the conversation on source material, like you hadn't been watching it, Ronnie hadn't been watching the Arrowverse shows, and I'm like, fuck, I don't have a guest. And again, it was like people were tripping over themselves to want to be on the show.
Yep. Yeah.
So I don't know who's gonna listen to this that we're actually talking about, but to Teasley, to Andrew Graham, to Alexis Hana, who I adore, and and I'm glad she really became a big part of the network this year, to David Wright, to all of my regulars, Robert Cooper, wherever you are, Robert Winfrey, who I love to death, even Jeff Harris, who I don't do any shows with and will never work with, but I appreciate the fact that he's on, almost every week with Robert Winfrey doing the 401 stuff. And, he and I will never see eye to eye. I appreciate the fact that he at least dedicates his time to, I suppose he could talk, he could do his own show or go on someone else's show, but he keeps coming on the one that that's part of my network that has my name, on the flag. So I just want to say I appreciate all of you, and I certainly appreciate you, Jesse. You're a big part of what keeps the ship running, because I couldn't do it by myself.
Yeah, man. I what was it? 2013, 2014. I remember my first ever calling into a Metal Hammer of Doom and talking a little bit with you guys. And
oh yeah, I remember. I was like, who's this? Who's this fucking?
So
why is this guy bothering me?
And yeah, I've turned it into it's a fun hobby. I have a lot of fun doing this, and the Radulich In Broadcasting Network is home for me. Glad to be here and actually be able to put some content out there. Man, we've done a lot of content, dude. I mean, if you look at all the shows, okay, looking at everything that we have for 2018, according to my spreadsheet, ladies and gentlemen, 372 shows. That's more. It's at least one a day, and just a little bit extra in there. And I mean, you look at some of the content source material has been putting out. There's 61 episodes that I can see there. 411 Ground and Pound steady putting stuff out. 44 episodes total for the year 2018. So there's always something to listen to, and I think that one of my things to look forward to in 2019 is definitely spreading the word of the Radulich In Broadcasting Network. Also, getting out there and bringing some newer people onto source material. I have a few more guests. As a matter of fact, I talked to one today. I said, hey, this guy I've known him. He's been a professional wrestler for at least most of that I've known him. And I said, he had thrown some comics down and said, I'm heading over to so-and-so to watch some, to stay in a cabin. And by this time tomorrow, I'll have all this read. And there was a bunch of comics there. And I said, dude, if you're interested, I know he's done podcasts in the past. You got to come on. He's like, let's do it. So at some point, we'll be bringing on some newer people on the source material. We've had a lot of fun here in 2018 with bringing in some guests, like I mentioned, Al Sedano, Chris Armstrong. Dean Compton, I don't think had a chance to make it on to a source material episode, but we did host one of his podcasts on the network, so he was definitely on the network there. I think it was back in the summer. So we're, just like you said, we're branching out, we're welcoming in new faces, new voices, and I'm looking forward to 2019. So my question to you, Mark Radulich, to send this thing on home, what is it that you want to do in 2019? You want to do anything new with the network, or what are you looking forward to the most? 2019, that's happening soon. So what's your thoughts?
It's hard for me to answer that because I've already pretty much plotted out almost literally every single week. Like when you look at January is all told. There's not a single thing on here that I don't have an exact date for as far as when it's over, when it's released, etc. So like everything in January is concrete unless, someone dies or can't make it or whatever. February, everything is either come out already or will have come out by that time, except for The Punisher. I don't have an exact date on yet, but I should by the time February 12th comes along. March is pretty much, again, the same thing. So it's like you go through the first 6 months of the year. Here's what I'll tell you. I went into 2019 going, I feel like I overdid it in 2018. I feel like I overscheduled myself just a little. And I drove myself nuts trying to fit it all in. And I said, I want to cut back on some of the shows I'm scheduling, not because I want to do less shows, but I know that other people are going to pitch stuff to me and say, can we do this? And I don't want to be like, sure, in 2023. That's when I have an opening. I want to have room in the schedule to be like, yeah, let's do it. And lo and behold, I got fucking ambushed by Alexis and Robert Winfrey last night during the Aquaman show. They were like, hey, what do you have building up to Endgame? And I'm like, nothing. There's no room on the fucking schedule. But I changed some things around, and the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th of April, we're actually going to be reviewing we're going to do a 3-part series every Friday night, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th, leading up to Endgame that reviews the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Every movie, including Captain Marvel, that will have come out up to Endgame.
Oh, interesting. Very nice.
It'll be me, myself, and me, Alexis, and Robert Winfrey. And this was his idea. It was his pitch.
Nice.
The other thing that happened was I'm going to Whitesnake for my birthday, April 23rd. And so that week there's no that's also the same week that Avengers comes out. So there's no Metal Hammer of Doom that week. That left an open day, and Robert had said, I really want to talk about Pet Sematary. And I'm like, well, then do it with somebody else, though, because I'm going to be at Whitesnake. And of course, I got called a pussy for getting out of yet another horror movie, which is fine.
Again, he's got some excuse.
So Rob and Alexis are going to do that. So what's one of my goals? To really make this more collaborative. I know it's the Radulich In Broadcasting Network, but I want people to pitch stuff. I want people to host their own shows. I want people to I don't necessarily feel like I have to be part of every show. I don't want to be part of every show. I don't want to drive a lot of the content. I drive a lot of it as it is. I want people to kind of step up and say, hey, I have an idea. Well, great, run with it. I want the Radulich In Broadcasting Network to really be this flowing, fluid, collaborative, creative podcast network where everybody, can take a little bit of ownership because they're able to contribute, as opposed to the sort of, I want it to be sort of a horizontal management system as opposed to a vertical one with me at the top, because that gets tiring for me.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Well, then we shall close the book on 2018. Looking forward to 2019. That's right. We still have a couple more shows to go before we hit that. But I think our discussion tonight, looking back at what has occurred in this last year, has been a lot of fun, Mark. I can't thank you enough for having the network here, letting me be a part of it, and I look forward to being a part of it here in 2019. With that being said, I turn it over to you, sir. You want to do some plugs?
We just wrapped up recording our Aquaman Damn You Hollywood. It's not as bad sounding as I thought it was going to sound. We had some connectivity issues with Skype. So there are some moments of silence where Robert was talking and no one can hear him. But it's not as bad as I thought it was. I was really frustrated getting through that. But it's almost 2.5 hours. And it's, despite the technical difficulties, it was a really good review. Alexis had a lot to say. I had a lot to say. Robert Winfrey and I usually behave ourselves when we have a guest on. We typically don't go at one another like cats and dogs. So like I said, next week, we've got a pair of Bumblebee shows. We got our year-end review for Metal Hammer of Doom. There'll be different than what we did tonight. We'll be more focused on the music, obviously. I'm looking forward to the Judgment Night stuff. I just rewatched that again recently. I watched that back to back with Surviving the Game, really one of my favorite movies from the 90s. So I'm looking forward to doing a commentary track for Judgment Night, and then looking at the soundtrack. The On Trial should be fun. We got the new Teen Titans on source material. Then we'll be reviewing the Teen Titans show. Then there's the new Soil Work. Got that Penance, the redemption of Speedball. Then Glass. Then Papa Roach. Then Fuller House Season 4. And then the last week of January, we've got Runaways Volume 2, Runaways Season 2, A Pale Horse Named Death, and The Crown Season 2. So we, once again, for a guy who said he didn't want to work 4 days a week, 3 out of 5 weeks in the month of January, I'm working 4 out of 5. I'm working 4 weeks, 4 days a week. I am a
working man in podcasting.
Living in America, baby. Sort the fucking mail, baby.
Sort the fucking mail. Mark, this has been a lot of fun. My name's Jesse Starcher. That's Mark Radulich. We're getting out of here. We'll let you go. Y'all have a great one. Have a good 2019. We'll be talking to you soon. Later.